We go to the doctor when we have symptoms, but could AI detect problems many years earlier and predict our risk of disease?
Is this the future of medicine or a nightmare in disguise? A powerful new AI has done what no human doctor could. It spotted a disease in record time, faster and more accurately than any physician. But the most shocking part? What the AI uncovered points to dangers that go far beyond the patient's chart. Could artificial intelligence be the key to saving lives, or the start of a medical revolution we can't control? What happens when machines outthink the people trained to heal us? And what terrifying truths might they reveal that we're not ready to face? In this video, we'll expose how this AI made its chilling diagnosis, the secrets it uncovered, and the unsettling future of medical superintelligence. The rise of medical superintelligence. For decades, science fiction imagined a world where machines could diagnose diseases, predict health outcomes, and even outperform doctors. That future is no longer fiction. Today, artificial intelligence, specifically medical superintelligence, is transforming how we detect and understand illness. One of the most astonishing breakthroughs comes from Microsoft's medical AI, a system capable of analyzing complex patient data with a speed and accuracy that stuns even seasoned physicians. This isn't just software offering suggestions or crunching numbers. What makes this AI extraordinary is that it reasons through medical cases, weighs competing possibilities, and explains its conclusions, often more effectively than human doctors. Microsoft's AI was rigorously tested against real-world medical records published in professional case reports. These weren't simplified examples or textbook cases. They reflected the messy, complicated reality of actual patients, people with overlapping symptoms, incomplete histories, and conditions that often confound even top specialists. Time and again, the AI outperformed physicians at diagnosing these conditions. In some cases, it spotted diseases in minutes that would have taken days or even weeks for a team of human doctors to identify. And it didn't just guess right. It explained how it reached its conclusions, outlining the evidence and logic behind its choices in ways that doctors found both impressive and humbling. What you'll see over the next couple of years is us doing more and more work proving these systems out in the real world, Mustafa Suleyman says, the CEO of the company's artificial intelligence arm. One particularly ironic element in this AI setup is the way it synthesizes immense amounts of information. Consider that a single patient generates vast amounts of data, years of test results, prescriptions, family history, clinical notes, scans, and genetic information. Any well-meaning physician, however, will only ever look at a small fraction of that in their lifetime. The AI will never tire, overlook, or forget. It digests all the information, linking dots that would otherwise remain unlinked, picking up faint patterns traversing long periods of records, and isolating important details hidden in plain sight. Well, this is not solely about saving time or costs, but AI does do that. It asserts that it fundamentally changes the way things can be done in medical care. Until now, medicine has always been reactive. When a patient shows signs of disease, he goes to consult a doctor, who then suggests a diagnosis in most cases after subjecting him to several tests and consultations. Medical superintelligence turns this golden rule upside down. It works as a proactive force because it can detect diseases even in their early forms, long before symptoms have appeared. The AI's breathtaking capabilities may be impressive, but what happened when it applied them to a real patient shocked the medical world in ways no one saw coming. The case that shocked the world. It started like so many medical mysteries do, with a patient no one could figure out. This was not someone with textbook symptoms or an obvious diagnosis. The patient, a middle-aged man, had bounced between clinics and specialists for months, growing weaker and more frightened with each visit. His symptoms were vague but debilitating: chronic fatigue, joint pain, intermittent fevers, and strange rashes that came and went. Every test seemed to come back inconclusive. Blood work, imaging scans, biopsies, all offered clues, but no clear answers. That's when Microsoft's medical superintelligence was brought in. The AI wasn't just given a summary of the case. It was fed the entire medical record, lab reports, notes from multiple specialists, genetic data, even family history. What happened next stunned everyone. In less than 10 minutes, the AI presented its diagnosis, a rare autoimmune disorder so uncommon that most doctors would never encounter it in a lifetime of practice. In their experiment, MAI-DxO surpassed human physicians, delivering an 80% accuracy rate, while the doctors achieved only 20%. It also lowered costs by 20% through smarter choices of more affordable tests and procedures. This orchestration mechanism, multiple agents that work together in this chain of debate style, that's what's going to drive us closer to medical superintelligence, says Suleiman. The realization of the AI attaining the right diagnosis was momentous. The method through which it achieved the conclusion was beyond any human comprehension. The AI was systematic in laying out its reasoning, demonstrating how seemingly disparate points, a minor elevation in liver enzymes, a trivial illness from childhood almost forgotten, a subtle distribution in the pattern of rash, could bridge their way back to the cause. Doctors who reviewed the report of the AI admitted that they would not have thought of it. Not that they were incompetent, but that the sheer volume of data was something no human could process in record time, sifting through subtle associations within various files. In so many words, the grandeur of the AIs here was that it solved a case that was beyond human expertise, in conventional terms, in such a transparent, logical manner, and most importantly, one that saved a life. Indeed, the question under discussion was how AI is expected to lower costs in healthcare, an important point in the US. Our model performs incredibly well, both getting to the diagnosis and getting to that diagnosis very cost-effectively, says Mr. Dominic King, a Microsoft corporate vice president working with this initiative. But truly deep within this unsettling realization that the machine surpassed human intelligence for pure execution was the dawning awareness of what it meant for the tomorrow of medicine. This single case had shaken the medical world, but it was only a glimpse of what this AI was capable of. Because when researchers pushed it further, what it uncovered was far more chilling, the pattern no one wanted to see. The success of the AI in solving that mysterious case was only the beginning. Encouraged by its remarkable accuracy, researchers decided to test the system on thousands of real-world medical records, challenging it with cases that had puzzled physicians, led to misdiagnoses, or resulted in tragic outcomes. What they expected was a collection of individual successes, rare diseases spotted faster, unusual symptoms linked to hidden conditions. What they didn't expect was the chilling pattern the AI began to uncover. As the data poured in and the machine processed case after case, it began to identify something that made even the most seasoned doctors uneasy. The AI wasn't just diagnosing rare illnesses. It was seeing connections that pointed to widespread, systemic blind spots in modern medicine. Time and time again, the AI flagged conditions that had been overlooked, not because they were too obscure, but because human bias, fatigue, or even gaps in medical training had caused doctors to miss them. More unsettling still, it highlighted how certain groups of patients, particularly women, minorities, and those with complex or overlapping conditions, were more likely to be misdiagnosed or ignored. The machine wasn't designed to critique human behavior, but that's exactly what its results did. The more cases it reviewed, the clearer it became. Misdiagnoses weren't just occasional mistakes. They were part of a hidden pattern that stretched across hospitals, regions, and specialties. What could be almost said to be the scariest part of this discovery is how disturbingly regular the pattern was. The eye placed uncertainty on all symptoms that did not fit neat categories, often labeling them as anxiety, stress, or atypical presentations. It pointed out missed red flags for heart disease in women, neglected autoimmune disorders, and early-stage cancers that may have come into the limelight with a slight excess of scrutiny. It did all of this without prejudice, without any preconceived notions, and purely on the basis of data. For a large section of the medical fraternity, it was both a revelation and a reckoning. An uncomfortable question was forced. How many lives were altered or lost due to errors gone unrecognized by the perpetrators? Debate began among doctors, ethicists, and hospital administrators as to what these findings meant. Some would argue that the AI was merely a tool for enhancing medicine by revealing the need for human fallibility to be backed up. Others feared possible undermining of trust in physicians, or the future scenario where every human clinical decision would be continuously questioned by patients in lieu of what a machine might say. But no one could deny the fact emerging, that AI had shown something that medicine had not been willing to face for decades, that mere expertise cannot prevent harm when decisions have been shaped at all levels by invisible patterns of bias and oversight. What the machine saw next, though, would push the boundaries of fear even further, because in its relentless analysis, the AI began to spot warning signs of conditions not yet diagnosed at all, predicting diseases that hadn't even fully developed. And that opened a door no one was prepared to walk through, a double-edged sword for doctors. As the AI's accuracy and insights continued to stun the medical community, doctors found themselves facing a paradox. On one hand, here was a tool that could catch what even the most experienced specialists might miss, a breakthrough that had the power to save lives, reduce misdiagnoses, and finally close gaps in care that had persisted for decades. On the other hand, this same technology began to feel like a silent judge in the room. Every diagnosis, every decision, every treatment plan could now be compared against a machine that had no fatigue, no bias, and no limits on memory. For many physicians, the excitement of new possibilities was shadowed by an unsettling question. Was this the future of partnership, or was it the beginning of being replaced? Doctors had long been the authority in the exam room, the voice patients turned to for clarity, reassurance, and action. The introduction of a system that could outperform human judgment in certain cases felt to some like an erosion of that authority. Imagine a scenario where a patient, armed with AI-generated insights, challenges their doctor's conclusion. Suddenly, the physician's expertise is questioned not by another peer, but by a machine. Some welcomed this as accountability, a way to ensure the best outcomes. But others saw it as the start of a dynamic that could damage trust between doctor and patient, turning every interaction into a debate rather than a dialogue. The AI's findings not only illuminated individual errors, but highlighted systemic issues, thereby increasing the burden of accountability on the doctors for missed diagnoses. The signals from the data emphasized the existence of similar oversights occurring repeatedly from multiple hospitals across several countries. Insights have been generated by the machine cross-referencing a gargantuan dataset of case histories, symptoms, and outcomes to cast a different type of light, an uncomfortable sort of illumination that showed the deficiencies in human judgment. For doctors who had prided themselves on being precise and caring, it was humbling. For others, already burnt out with an excess workload and administrative burden, this was more pressure than they ever wanted. Yet it was not the height of fright and strife. Several practitioners took the computer as a potential ally, a protection from uncertain moments. In crisis situations like accident and emergency departments or rural clinics relatively short of health resources, the AI's ability to catch rare cases or subtle warning flags could mean the difference between life and death. These doctors, therefore, saw the opportunity to work with machines rather than feel threatened, letting numbers do the computations while focusing on the services that only humans can provide. Empathetic connection with patients and considerations of subjective human factors in care choices. What the AI uncovered next, however, would shift the conversation from professional discomfort to something far more chilling. Because in its quest to diagnose, the machine began to predict conditions and patterns that hinted at dangers no one saw coming. And this time, it wasn't just about individual patients. It was about society itself, the terrifying future of diagnosis. At first, the breakthroughs seemed nothing short of miraculous. For decades, doctors and scientists dreamed of tools that could spot illnesses in their earliest, most treatable stages. Machines that could see what the human eye missed, algorithms that could process in minutes what would take experts years to piece together. The arrival of diagnostic AI felt like the long-awaited leap forward, a promise finally fulfilled. Here was technology that could detect conditions faster, more cheaply, and with greater accuracy than even the most experienced physicians. Early cancers, hidden genetic disorders, subtle markers of chronic disease, all laid bare with stunning precision. But as the reach of these systems grew, so did their implications. What once seemed like salvation began to reveal a future that was far more unsettling. The AI's relentless pattern recognition, its ceaseless hunger for data, and its eerie predictive power began to expose not just disease, but truths that many were not ready or willing to face. In its cold calculations, it began to feel less like a tool for healing and more like a prophet of grim certainties, offering glimpses of futures we might rather not know. One of the most startling and disquieting developments came when the AI moved beyond detecting current illness and began forecasting future conditions with unnerving accuracy. By analyzing a mosaic of genetic markers, subtle shifts in blood chemistry, lifestyle choices logged by wearable devices, and even patterns of speech or movement, the machine uncovered connections invisible to even the sharpest human minds. In countless cases, it could predict life-altering diseases years, even decades, before a single symptom appeared. On the surface, this seemed like the ultimate gift, a chance for patients to take control, to intervene early, to rewrite their destinies. But for many, the gift felt more like a curse. Imagine being told you have a 95% chance of developing a degenerative neurological disease before your 50th birthday, or that your heart will likely fail within 15 years, despite no outward sign of trouble today. For some, this knowledge offered purpose and resolve. For others, it felt like a sentence, an unshakable shadow hanging over every decision, every joy, every ordinary moment that might now be seen through the lens of inevitable decline. Yet the AI's gaze did not stop at the individual. As its data sets swelled, it began to map risk at the population level, creating a kind of medical cartography never before possible. It spotted clusters of early disease markers in certain neighborhoods, linked patterns of illness to specific pollutants in the air or water, and identified public health crises long before they reached the headlines. In one city, it traced rising cancer rates to a chemical leak no one had detected. In another, it warned of a looming diabetes epidemic tied to urban food deserts. On the surface, these insights offered a chance for swift intervention, for life-saving action. But beneath that hope lurked troubling questions. Who would control this information? Could it be weaponized? Used to stigmatize or discriminate against entire communities labeled as high risk? Perhaps most chilling of all was how the AI laid bare the brutal reality of health disparities. Its impartial, data-driven analyses confirmed what many had long suspected, but few had been willing to confront: that the people most vulnerable to preventable diseases were those already marginalized by race, income, geography, or circumstance. The system, designed to heal, illuminated the deep wounds of systemic inequality. On one hand, these revelations could have been a rallying cry for justice. a chance to target resources, to right wrongs, to close gaps that had festered for generations. But without strict ethical safeguards, there was the risk that the technology would do the opposite, turning these truths into yet another means of exclusion, reinforcing biases rather than dismantling them. What was meant as a mirror to guide us toward equity threatened instead to become a magnifying glass for society's most dangerous prejudices. And so, the future of diagnosis became not merely a question of what the AI could see, but whether we were ready, or even able, to face what it revealed. Its pronouncements, drawn from billions of data points and impossibly complex patterns, often left little room for debate, second opinions, or human nuance. As its findings grew more intricate, they became harder to question, harder to understand, harder to challenge. One physician, watching the AI work during an early hospital trial, whispered in awe and unease, "It's like it knows things we're not ready to understand or to accept." The tool, built to illuminate medicine's blind spots, now cast shadows of its own, and the chill came not only from what it saw, but from how quickly it arrived. What began as a helpful assistant evolved into a stark mirror, one that reflected not only our hidden diseases, but the vulnerabilities of the societies we've built, and the fears we've long tried to ignore. The real question is no longer whether the AI can predict more than we can see, but whether we have the courage to act on what it shows us, and the wisdom to do so with compassion. If you found this expose eye-opening, like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into technology's hidden impact on our world. What do you think? Should AI guide our medical decisions? Or is this a line we shouldn't cross? Let us know below, and check out the next video on your screen for more untold stories of science and power.